Hey everyone, welcome back to Today in Tech. I'm Julia Beauchamp, and I am here with Computer World Executive Editor Ken Mingus, as well as Macworld Executive Editor Michael Simon. We are live on YouTube as well as on Computer World's LinkedIn page, so if you have any questions, comments while we're talking, please do let us know. And a quick programming note, this is actually my last episode of Today in Tech, so the show, our videos will go on a brief hiatus, so definitely stay tuned to the channel. There will be more coming, but this might be the last you see of me, at least for a while.
We'll get you back someday.
So today we are talking about the hardware supply chain shortages, as well as how that's going to sort of play a role in WWDC. Is it going to affect hardware announcements? So you guys each had two good articles, one on each of your respective sites that were pretty good and I think pretty thorough. So I don't know, do either of you want to sort of do an overview of like where like the wait times are right now? Maybe this is more of a Mike question, I know, because that was on
That's
Macworld.
a Mike question. Macworld had a great story on this exact topic.
Wait times are pretty bad. You can get the 13-inch MacBook Pro with an M1 processor, that one, which I wouldn't recommend getting right now. That you can find. Mac Mini with an M1, and the MacBook Air isn't so bad. So the M1, the first Apple Silicon chip, is relatively plentiful. The iMac is a bit constrained, but not too bad. And you can find it at like Costco or Target or Best Buy, like here and there, some Apple stores. But if you want the M1 Pro, the M1 Max, and forget the M1 Ultra, you're not getting those until like at least late June and into like mid-July for some of them. It's crazy how constrained. I've never seen, like, when an Apple product comes out, like the iPhone back in the day when they did pre-orders, they would sell out and they'd be 3 to 5 weeks out or something like that. When the AirPods Max came out, it was pushed to like April, but Apple ramps up their production and quickly close that gap. This is getting worse. Every day I check, or every couple of days I check, it's another like 4 days out. Like, it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I don't know what WWDC looks like. If you're talking about a Mac Pro, I don't think there's any way that releases. Maybe a preview and we'll ship it next year. But there's no way. If they can't even fulfill MacBook Pro orders, there's no way they're going to get a higher-end processor fabricated and shipped and produced in any kind of a time frame right now. So
hasn't Apple said that this could cost them like something like $8 billion in the quarter, or some?
That's they. So it's been affecting the quarter before the holiday quarter was $8 billion or so. Then the holiday quarter was like another one. And then last quarter, a few billion. And then the guidance for this quarter was like, it's going to get worse. I'm not a person who understands these things, but this has been going on for many, many months, well over like almost into 2 years now. And first it was a shipping container got stuck in the strait there. Then
the Suez Canal,
right? Yeah, that was bad.
I remember that. Don't turn left. No U-turns.
Then it was, the pandemic shutdowns, and now it's just like we don't know. There's a bunch of things that are going wrong, and it's not just Apple. It's across the board. No one can really get anything. If you look at a Dell Latitude or XPS or something, you're looking at June, July for that too. So at some point, this is going to affect holidays. This is going to affect back to school.
Right. Yeah.
Like my kid hasn't even graduated 4th grade yet. If I want to get him something for 5th grade, I gotta buy it now almost. Like we're into mid to late July.
Kids get 5th grade graduation gifts?
A computer. Well, no, I'm not getting him anything. but I'm just using it as a frame of reference.
Way to prep the kid for next grade, Michael.
God, what a lucky kid.
He has my old hand-me-down Samsung Chromebook.
I want to pick up on you made a really good point though, Michael. And this Juliet, you had mentioned that Johnny Evans had written about this.
Yes.
For us at Computer World, and he sort of took the supply chain problems that Apple is having and kind of extrapolated them out and said basically it's bad news for enterprise IT because I mean, companies are continually updating the hardware that they have for their employees. Some of them have 2 or 3 year cycles, some of them maybe stretch it a little bit. But the problem is if you've got a dead computer now and you need something right away, whether it's an Apple computer or Dell or whatever, you're going to have trouble getting it. And
a good one. A good one,
one.
The kind that you need for
business.
Anything beyond like email, yeah.
Yeah. And the point being, and this goes to what you were just saying about getting something for the fall school year. Companies that often do a replacement cycle in the fall or winter. And Johnny's advice was, if you need things now, you better go ahead and order them now, because even with these extended wait times that Apple is seeing, the problem is still building. It's what was 4 or 5 weeks a couple months ago is now 6 or 8 weeks, and then goes to 10 or 11 weeks. There's no guarantee that by the time you get around to July or August to order, that you're not looking at something that might not get here before the holidays. I mean, now maybe things will improve. But
we've been saying that for a long time. Maybe things will improve, and they haven't.
Yeah.
And it's not again. It's not just Apple. It's not just tech even.
No.
This is you can see there's inflation, there's production issues, there's supply issues. It's all kind of a confluence of things that really show no sign of easing anytime soon.
Yeah.
So I think that affects WWDC in the sense that
there you go.
We're not getting anything. Why would Apple release a new product that it can't deliver?
Mm-hmm.
For example, Google I/O was just held, and they previewed a bunch of stuff. Nothing is shipping until at least mid-July.
And that's what they sort of like.
Pixel 5a.
That's like what they advertised at the event and said, like.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's Google's WWDC basically. They said we're making a tablet. That's not coming until next year. We're making a watch. That's not coming until the fall. The Pixel 7's coming October, and the Pixel 5a, which is most of the parts they have already.
Right.
That's not shipping until July. So, or I don't even, July something. So, again, it's not just Apple. And when you start doing stuff like that, showing off a bunch of things and then not shipping them, people get, irritated.
Yeah.
For one, your current sales dry up because nobody wants to buy anything because they know something's coming. And then the other thing is like, well, why'd you show us that if it's not shipping for another 10 or 12 months? Like, what's the point here?
So at WWDC, do you think that there's going to be do you think that they're going to take like the Google model and say, here's all the stuff that's coming eventually? Or are they going to just not mention hardware at all? And be like,
the only thing they might do
new
is
operating systems
of the Mac Pro. Yeah, well, obviously all the OSs, yes. It would not be unprecedented to have a WWDC that's just software. In fact, last year it was just software.
Yeah, that's not
was it really?
unusual at all.
No, it's not. And it happens. They've released some big time Macs there, and I still think that being that the transition, the Apple Silicon transition was promised to be 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that there's a strong chance that we could get a peek at the Mac Pro. They've done that before numerous times with the iMac Pro, the Mac Pro, the cylinder Mac Pro, and the modular Mac Pro, where they show the audience, okay, this is coming, but it's not shipping for 6 or 8 months. And they can do that with that product because it ships in such low quantities, and the people who buy it are willing to wait.
They'll wait.
They want very
absolutely.
specific. They want very specific, customizations and things like this. So that could happen. MacBook Air with an M2, no way. Listen, if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any way that M2 processor ships when they can't even get production of the M1 Pro right now, or the more than Max or the Ultra.
Isn't one of the issues though, Mike? It's not just the big chips, the M1, the M2, Ultra, whatever. It's a lot of the ancillary chips that go into these devices. The cameras and all kinds of communications chips and things like that.
That was the issue with the iPad. It was what Tim Cook calls legacy nodes. But it's also right now it's everything. It's not just a couple of small parts. It's affecting all of their high-end Macs, every one of them.
Yeah, it's the lockdowns in China, as I understand it, because of COVID.
That's part of it.
It's really
I think it's
exacerbating
really
it right now.
Yeah, I think and I can link probably one of our previous videos that we've done about the chip shortage. I think I did one, relatively recently. And it's just coming at it from all angles pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one specific cause.
Well, think about it. You've got the spill-on effects of a 2-year pandemic that may or may not be receding. You've got the fact that there's actually a war going on in Europe right now.
Mm-hmm.
You've got issues around fuel supplies and pricing, and, which is going to affect transportation of goods, which might make companies want to slow things down until things stabilize. You do have inflation running, hotter than it's been in a long, long time. So that's a lot of headwinds for a company like Apple that likes to, keep its supply chain very smooth, running very smoothly and deliver things, at a regular cadence. It's just beyond them. There's nothing they can do about these factors.
And they now have to worry about the iPhone 14 and the A16
Yes,
chip.
this makes me wonder what's going to happen in the fall.
Yeah,
I agree.
Those things are rapidly approaching. We're almost in June now. So that production starts soon. That's a new chip. That's a new chassis. That's a new
camera.
A new size from what we hear. Everything's new there. So that's not okay, it's a 12S or whatever, and we can use these parts. It's all new. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's you can say these are first world problems, but they're really not. High-end computers are not luxury items, so to speak. I mean, people do need them. A lot of people work from home.
Sure.
A lot of people need more power than what a MacBook Air gives you, and right now it's just very hard to find that.
And looping it back to Johnny's article, Ken, there's enterprise users that need them, and it's a matter of important for productivity and efficiency.
Well,
I would think.
and that's exactly the point that he was making. And I'm not sure that IT buyers, the folks that make the decisions in companies about equipping, their employees, what they're going to get. I'm not sure this is that how far out these wait times are. I'm not sure that's on their radar yet. And so that was basically Johnny's, call to arms. It's like, hey, folks, are you paying attention? Supply chains are getting really stretched or broken. And if you're planning your big autumn, update for all of your hardware,
sure,
you might want to rethink that or start buying stuff now, or at least get it ordered so you're in the queue.
Mm-hmm. So
it's weird here.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any final thoughts on the hardware specific angle, but I mean, while we're here, I figure we might as well talk about WWDC. And the good thing is that if anyone's really off base, you don't have to answer for it here in a few weeks. So
that's good. That's a good point.
So Mike, what's coming to WWDC?
Nobody will know.
What's coming? What do you know?
Yeah, so maybe no hardware except maybe a Mac Pro, but there's going to be OS updates.
Yeah, Mac OS, iOS, iPad OS, Watch OS, TV OS, HomePod OS, all those are
right.
a given, so to speak. That's the point of the conference. We'll get a preview, we'll get a developer beta, we'll get a public beta, and then we'll get it. They'll ship in September and October of this year. New features, there's not a ton out there yet. The juiciest stuff from Mark Gurman over at Bloomberg.
Mm-hmm.
He said that iOS 16 will get a major changes.
That's next
what does
year,
that
though,
mean?
right?
No, we're 15 right now.
We're at 15. You're right. That would be this year. I read that. Yeah. I saw the same thing, but I was thinking that meant next year. You're right. Okay, good.
Major changes, maybe. He used the word fresh Apple apps. I don't really know what that means, and it seems like a kind of a real careful word there, where it could apply to a lot of different things. Maybe revamped interfaces, maybe brand new apps. I don't know. But he did say that it wouldn't be a wholesale change to the look and feel of it, which I don't think Apple will ever do again. Because if you remember iOS 7, people got very upset when Apple completely and totally changed the way it looked from iOS 6 to iOS 7. I don't think they'll do that again, but he does say that you can expect major changes, most notably to the way we interact with the OS. So maybe. Also this week, Apple kind of previewed some accessibility features that are coming later. They've done this before. It's not unprecedented. Couple of interesting features: door detection. So what that'll do
Oh,
is
that's
that'll
cool.
tell somebody who
If you don't see,
can
well,
see,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
like, okay, there's a door like 9 feet away from you and it's closed. So like there's that. There was Apple Watch stuff where you can mirror your watch and your phone and different gestures. So that could signal some of the changes that we could see interaction wise within iOS. And the big question mark in my mind is, do we get a look at the AR headset or the AR
Sure.
environment that Apple is building? There's a lot of rumors. In fact, there was just one like 15 minutes ago that Mark Gurman of Bloomberg says that Apple's ready to show it to its board, which is like a big step
Wow.
towards finalizing it. So do we get a preview? The rumor is that it's called Reality OS or ROS or something. Do they show that off without a final product, without even really a ship date, just to kind of get
like a
kinda-
proof of concept of the environment.
yeah, and kind of like whet the appetite of developers and get them thinking in terms of that type of stuff, because you can do all of that on the phone.
Sure.
All that AR stuff with the lidar sensor and the cameras and stuff, like it hasn't taken off. But if you're developing for a mythical AR headset, it can all be done now.
Right.
So if they know it's coming and there's an environment to work in Swift and all that stuff that they can use to kind of just play around with it.
I thought the whole headset thing had been sort of the assumption was that it had been bumped to 23. So we're now back to maybe possibly this year.
But
I mean, in terms of
with a
demonstrating.
product like that, they can't just announce it and sell it. It was kind of like the iPhone. Like they need developers to
They need
push
lead
that.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they gave 6 months to developers. Maybe they do the same thing with something like this, because there's got to be a bunch of apps on this thing. It can't just be a thing you strap to your face and there's a couple of stock apps and you look at things and things like they need to get it rolling pretty quickly, I think. So I would suspect that they don't show hardware, but maybe preview
Sure.
what that interface would look like.
And that makes, I mean, this is pretty much exactly what you're saying. I think I'm just restating in different words, but it's, I mean, it makes sense if like it's sort of in its infancy now to get it in front of developers, let them, start strategizing, being creative around it. And then like maybe when it's ready or closer to being ready next year, there's already like some, I don't know, excitement about it, some buy-in from developers that are looking at it strategically. So that would make sense. What kind of
Well,
stuff? Go ahead, Ken.
I'm just going to say real quick, it would make sense for Apple to want to at least be in that conversation, because there's a lot of discussion now about multiverse, omniverse, meta,
Right.
virtual realities, and Apple really hasn't. I mean, it's got stuff that's on the phone and it's demonstrated some things, but I think it would be smart of Apple, if they're going to preview this, to get it out there, and it would also sort of obliterate concerns about supply chains and hardware right now, because it would be a big deal for Apple to finally, unveil at least part of what it's trying to do here, or what it thinks it's going to do. So
Sure.
I'm glad to hear that. I guess we'll know in about 3 weeks.
Don't mark it
Fingers
down. I don't know if it's
Mike said
actually
we're going to unveil it. Come on, Tim. It's like
I think it would be a good time to do it, and I think it would give developers, 6 months to a year to get these things. At Google I/O, Google shut off glasses that it was very simple, but you were able to translate. So like if we're speaking in different languages in front of your lens, it would show the translated text, which is pretty amazing. I don't know how well it works, but
That's cool.
The demo was cool.
I want
It
to
was just the one function, but it was cool.
Shameless plug, we've got a column coming out in Computer World tomorrow by Mike Elgin, who writes about a lot of these futuristic things, about exactly that, Michael, and the idea that not only is the translation thing itself cool, but that it opens a lot of doors, that you can do a lot more than just translate words. And, anyway, so preview of coming attractions on Computer World.
Once that's up
after
tomorrow,
this.
I'll throw it in the description so people can read it. So if
Thank
you're
you.
watching this later than Friday, May 20th, you can check it out.
It'll be there.
Yes, and you can read it. Because, that's interesting. I kind of wonder about, like, I think I've said this before too, but I kind of wonder about like the practical use case of an AR situation, like an AR headset, and not even just like the enterprisey case, but just like about the everyday person kind of case. I mean, like translating's cool, but yeah, I'm curious. Well, but I guess there's some wait and see.
Think of it this way, Juliet, and again, this is something that Mike Elgin has written about.
Yeah.
For this to work, it has to be something other than this thing that fits over your eyes and no one can see you. It needs to be something, and his take is that basically the augmented reality is going to be much more accessible for most people and much more usable for most people than virtual reality. So something like a pair of glasses like Michael has on now, which have a screen embedded so that when he's walking around a city, he can get information about the restaurant next door and check on reviews, or somebody walks up and says, Michael, I haven't seen you in 10 years. How are you? And it can tell him, oh, this is so-and-so. He works for so-and-so, and you guys have had a bunch of meetings about whatever in the past. And, it's a way of augmenting the information that you're taking in. Again, I know it sounds pie in the sky, but I think that's much more likely than we're all in a room with goggles on, not looking at each other. And, it looks like, Avatar the movie or something.
I don't think that's the direction Apple will go. I mean,
no, I'm not saying necessarily that Apple's going that way, but that his take on AR and
yeah. Well,
I agree with you that Apple is looking differently.
I don't know what it's going to be, but I do agree that the ultimate final product is a pair of glasses like these.
Yeah.
I don't think they're there yet, and I would be shocked if they came out with a headset other than like a developer kit.
Sure.
Like, I don't think, listen, Oculus has its place. People like it. That's fine. It's fairly limited. I don't think Apple wants to get into that space. I don't think there's anything that they can bring there, too. I don't think there's anything they can bring to it. But what Google showed off, that was a regular pair of glasses with like a heads-up display. I think that's where Apple would be going. But it's very hard to imagine like what that could be. I mean, the Apple Watch is still evolving. So they got to start from ground zero because no one's done it. Mm-hmm. Microsoft HoloLens, there's some stuff there.
Yeah.
The VR phone stuff that flopped, and the Oculus stuff is, like they're running an ad campaign now that says it can do so much more than games. Like, all right, but no one's doing that. It's a gaming system.
Yeah.
So it's tricky, and that's why I think Apple would need to show off what the interface looks like, what it could do, how you can build on top of it, et cetera, et cetera. Even like, so the example you gave, you walking around and restaurants pop up, like, all right, like what's so great about that? Like, there's got to be something more to it than just that. So I'm very intrigued by it. I know Tim Cook, this has been a project of his for a while. He's been into it. If anyone can do it, Apple can. But I'm very interested to see what and where they go with this. And listen, they might not get it right either. Apple's had failures before. It's possible.
Yeah.
One of the viewers on YouTube actually made a pretty good point about AR and like what an AR goggle glasses could do, and they said that it could be used in warehouses where it scans barcodes in real time, identifying the package that you need, highlights it for faster grab and go. Which that to me, like, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That
yeah. But those are all very limited.
Aids in efficiency.
And there are things that you could do with them, but it's like one task here and there, like HoloLens. That's cool if you need it for that very specific purpose.
Sure.
That's not what Apple's in. That's not the business Apple's in. Apple's in, mass market luxury, life-changing devices. So, yeah, it'll be able to do things like that for sure. But there's got to be more to it. I mean, listen, the iPhone doesn't even make, like, the phone part isn't even a thing anymore.
That's kind of
like,
true.
That's not, Apple, Steve Jobs did the whole thing with the phone and you press the button, and that was revolutionary at the time, but it evolved. Yeah. And I don't really know where the AR headset ends up, but I'd love to get a look at it because I'm very intrigued.
Yeah.
Sure. So I feel like that's pretty much all we've got on this topic. Do you guys have any, closing musings, brilliant ideas about any of the above? I'm going to take it as a no.
Issues will continue. No, supply chain issues will continue indefinitely, and we'll see what happens at WWDC.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, the software stuff is the show.
Yeah.
Like, that's the most interesting thing. I know it doesn't get all the attention because everybody likes new hardware, but iPad OS and Watch OS are the things that I have my eye on to really. I've been saying this for years, but like there needs to be a leap there.
Sure.
In interface, in battery life for the watch, in different like there needs to be where version 9 for the watch, iPad. What is this? The fourth standalone version maybe. But whatever, Apple needs to take those things to the next level, and iOS will get its things, Mac OS will get its things.
Right,
but those
of
are the two that I'm most interested in seeing what Apple brings to the equation.
Sounds like a plan. All right. Well, thank you both so much for joining me as always. And thank you all so much for watching this episode of Today in Tech. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up. If you're watching on LinkedIn, you can head over to our YouTube channel, IDG Tech Talk, where you can subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hit the bell icon so you're notified every single time we post a new video. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, I'll do my best to get back to you. But like I said, this is my final episode, but Today in Tech will be back in some form, so definitely stay tuned. And I'm sure that my current team will keep everyone updated, once I depart. So don't worry about it too much. Thank you all so much for watching.
Live long and prosper.
Yes, and I guess I won't see you next time, but thank you.